Hey folks, Wally DM here, and today we're going to take a look at a trap that takes place in an ancient temple. As we enter, this temple is going to be covered with dust and spiderwebs, and the walls are going to be decorated with paintings of armored veterans standing behind shields. Now, our characters may or may not recognize some of the religious and historical symbols in here, but before they know it, they're going to be attacked by swarms of spiders. Now, I assume that the characters are going to want to defend themselves, and they're going to attack the swarms, and as soon as a few of the spiders from the swarms die, all of the pictographs that are on the floor are going to activate, and they're going to glow with a soft white light. It's at that point some of our characters are going to put away their weapons or quit casting spells to try to harm the swarms, and they're going to have to either figure out how to defend themselves, or they're going to need to make a run for it. You can find today's trap in one of my favorite books, Treacherous Traps, and this one's called The Oath of Pacifism. Before we get started, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button, join us over on the Discord, and pick up a copy of my book, Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters, available now on DriveThruRPG. So I'm going to set this trap up in some type of an abandoned temple. No one has been here for centuries. Of course, our characters are probably looking for something, and I'm going to have this as some type of a religious room where the object that they're looking for is going to be either on this altar or in a secret compartment in this altar. Now, as they come in here, this entire room is going to be covered with dust and a ton of spider webs. Now, also on the wall, and these could be partially covered with dust and spiderwebs, are pictographs. And the entire floor is covered with these pictographs. And then along the sides of the wall are also paintings and pictographs that are painted to resemble armored warriors standing behind shields. Now, this trap, is written in the Treacherous Traps book, is actually set for character levels 1 through 4, so the DCs that I give you today, you may want to adjust them accordingly if you want to make this a little bit more difficult or for higher level characters. But the first thing that the book suggests is a DC 15 Intelligence, Arcana, History, or Religion check. And on a success, they're going to be able to identify these pictographs as images from history that are pertaining to pacifism and pertaining to peace. Now, I did mention that the entire area is filled with spider webs, so shortly after they enter here and after the DC 15 check, I'm going to have each one of them engulfed in an insect swarm. And if you're playing 5th edition, you can look up in the back of the monster manual and you're going to see a swarm of insect creatures. I believe that's on page 338, and you can flavor that how you want. If you want more of an Indiana Jones type of a feel, maybe you make it a swarm of snakes or swarm of some type of roaches or bugs or something like that if you're going for something like the Mummy, but I decided to use spiders. So now we're going to roll for initiative, and each of our characters have a swarm of spiders that's about them. Now, while we're in combat, after a swarm of insects is depleted in hit points to half, then half of those insects are going to be gone. And our trap actually triggers when any creature is killed in the area. So by reducing the hit points to half on the swarm of spiders, I'm going to say a spider is going to die, and that is going to trigger our trap. Now, the effect of the trap is our pictographs on the floor are going to glow and radiate with a soft light. And at the beginning of each character's turn, they're going to need to make a DC 12 Wisdom saving throw. And if they fail this Wisdom saving throw, then they're going to take the route of pacifism. They're either going to put their weapon away or they're going to quit casting offensive type spells that would actually damage the swarm. Now, for characters that did fail the saving throw, this effect is going to last for 1 minute. So the way that I'm seeing with this room in particular is this is an old ancient room, and it was run by monks or those that did not like violence. So the way that I see this room, and a way to put it in your game, is I see this as an ancient room of worship, or an ancient temple room. And again, this was created with the intent of pacifying or being at peace. So all of these pictographs or glyphs were embedded into this room so that if anyone is killed, the trap kicks in and it promotes peace and pacifism. So here we are 100 years later, and all of these swarms of spiders or snakes or whatever you see fit into this room have taken up residence here. And the reason that they have is because our insect swarms are immune to being charmed, and the trap is triggering a charm effect. So of course, these swarms of spiders see this as a great area to be because they are unaffected by the trap, but some others are, and they won't be able to defend themselves. Of course, they'll be able to run out the door or things of that nature, maybe take some type of a defensive pose or something like that, but they're not going to want to harm the swarm of spiders or whatever insect you decide to use. Now, it's not covered in the book, but I would have every round of combat begin with that particular character making the DC 12 saving throw. And again, on a failure, they're going to be charmed for 1 minute, and they're not going to want to attack the swarm of spiders. Now, a few other notes: if any of the characters uses spells such as Detect Magic, then the pictographs are going to give off an aura of enchantment. Now, this trap can also be disabled by a Dispel Magic. So Dispel Magic will take care of the trap, but it is also going to require a DC 12 spell casting ability check. So for wizards, that'll probably be an intelligence check, or for sorcerers, that would probably be charisma. Or you could just make it an arcana check. Up to you and how you want to run it. So I really like this trap overall. Again, the item that they're looking for is going to be on this altar. So they're going to need to try to avoid the swarm of spiders, or they're going to need to fight through until the magic takes hold, or find some other way to deal with them so that they're not being attacked as they're fighting them. Of course, if the party has a bag of hit points, maybe they just take those attacks, get up here, find what they need to find, and then they get out of the room. So the way that this trap is written in the book, the trigger is a mortal sacrifice. So this room could be something of an arena, or perhaps there's some humanoid creatures when you run this. Maybe the characters are fighting goblins, and when the first goblin falls, then the trap is going to trigger, and the goblins and the PCs are going to need to make saving throws to keep from getting that suggestion and charmed in order to give out combat and be a pacifist. But that's totally up to you. I really like the idea of this room being abandoned for centuries, and these spiders have taken up residence here because the insect swarms cannot be charmed. They're immune to it, and so they just have a feast here. If the characters become suggested or charmed as to where they don't want to attack, then that's going to give advantage to the swarm of spiders. Those adventurers or PCs or whatever monster it is that is intruding in the areas going to either need to make a run for it or try to defend themselves. Now, what I think is neat about the Oath of Pacifism trap is you could combine this with my Door of the Pacifist puzzle, and you could create an entire adventure out of it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. That is one of my first puzzle videos on this channel, and it's also in my book, Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters. Be sure to check it out, and maybe you can combine both of those traps and puzzles into an adventure that you're going to be running soon. And also don't forget that Treacherous Traps is one of my favorite trap books. Be sure to check out my video, the top 5 trap books, if you want to see more of the kind of traps that I like to run in my game. So that's all I have for you today. What did you think of this trap? Is this something that you would run in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.